Hi, welcome to another video. So, ZAI has given me early access to GLM 5.1, and I have been testing it, and I can share my thoughts with you guys now. It is supposed to go live a bit after my video, so it should go live in the next 12 hours after you watch this video. So yeah, there's that. Now, I don't have a ton of info about the model and what has been changed, but it is mostly a post-train update of the GLM-5 model. They say that it can now do long-running tasks even better than before. If you don't know, GLM 4.7 was not great at long-running tasks. However, GLM 5 was really good at that, and so is the new GLM 5.1 model. But this one is supposed to be even better. The parameters of the model remain the same as well. It will first get to the coding plan users and the API, and the weights might be released shortly after that. They have said that there will be no big announcement or anything, so I'll pin a comment when it becomes available. One of the things that I can feel is that it is much more coding-focused or agent-focused now than before. For example, if you use it just to chat by yourself, then it is most likely that it will start to code for some odd reason, which is not very cool. The reason it does that is probably because it has been trained even more with code, and it thinks that it should code or make an HTML file even where it's not necessary. For example, in my King bench, I have this question where I ask it to solve a riddle, and instead of just telling me that the answer is smoke, it uses HTML to build a page that gives me the answer. The answer is correct, by the way, so I think it is just mixing in coding where it is not even necessary. I have reported this to the team, and they have said that they may fix it before release, so take it with a grain of salt. Then, if you use it via an agentic contraption like OpenClaw, then it does quite well. Otherwise, it is not a very pleasant experience. If you remember my Gemini 3.1 Flash review, then I had the same gripe with it as well, and it's probably how RL works for coding, where the model starts writing code unnecessarily. Minimax also does this. However, this has a flip side, and it is that it is really good with agents. Like, it's extremely good. I'll talk about the generations and stuff in a bit, but in plain terms, the model is very focused now. It does instruction following really well. It debugs really well now, and it doesn't deviate at all from the main objective. GLM-5 was a bit weird there because it would sometimes overdo things, and then it got stuck, and it made the experience worse many times. One more gripe that I had with GLM-5, which has now been fixed with this version, is that GLM-5 was a very hard reasoner. It did too much reasoning where it wasn't even necessary, which slowed down simple tasks. However, now it seems that it doesn't do too much reasoning where it's not necessary. Interleaved thinking also works much better with it, and it is actually a pleasant experience. It feels much snappier than before due to that as well. It is also now much better at planning. It can now take in context much better before making any changes, and planning also works quite well due to that. It is almost like GPT 5.3 Codex, if that makes sense. Now, if we look at my benchmarks, then it also shows the same story. The first one is the floor plan, and it does some insane stuff here. The previous version was not able to do this, but this one actually does really well. The floor plan mostly makes sense. The washroom could have been near the hall, as both washrooms are in the master bedroom, but that's fine, I guess. And overall, it does quite well. Even Codex doesn't do this well. Next up, we've got the SVG of a panda holding a burger. This one is actually also really good. You can see that this looks pretty good and to the point. So yeah, this is great. Then we've got the Pokeball with 3JS, and this is also actually quite good. It is to the point and it works quite well, and the characteristics of the generation are also to the point, so that is great. Then we've got the autoplay chess game, and this one is also pretty good, and you can make it play and everything, so it's quite good for that matter. Next, we've got the Minecraft game clone in Kandinsky style, and this is also really good. You can see it working quite well, and it actually does really well. The patterns are nice, the map is also laid out nicely, the controls also work pretty well. Then we've got the majestic butterfly flying in a garden, and this one is also really good. The butterfly flies pretty seamlessly, and the scene looks quite beautiful, so this is also great. Next up, we've got a CLI tool in Rust and a Blender script, which both are good. However, in the general questions, especially the math ones, it fails. As I mentioned before, the model is not as good anymore in general chat and questions, which can be a bummer if you use it outside agentic contraptions. It won't be a super big deal with something like OpenClaw, as it can use different tools to get concrete stuff, but without that, it can be bad for chats. The riddle question is solved, but as I said, it uses code blocks and stuff for the answer, which can be annoying. However, the answer is correct. The code blocks thing mostly happens when, in the system prompt, you say something like use code blocks where necessary, and then it just starts using it everywhere. So, yeah, there's that. So, this makes it score the 5th position on the leaderboard. I think that it has regressed in non-agentic contraption chats. However, it has significantly improved in agent tasks. So that is why you see more of a similar score, because one area has improved significantly. Next up, we have the agentic tests. As I said, it is just so much better in agentic tasks. Like, it's remarkably better. For example, this movie tracker is just really good. Like, I'd go as far as saying that it is the best generation I have seen. Codex is just really bad at UI. Opus is great, but it can be really bad in some places. This one perfectly nails almost everything. This is because it actually fixes its own mistakes quite well. I ran it with Kilo CLI, and it actually runs lint to check for errors and then fixes them. It can actually go on for really long until the task you have given is not only finished, but until it is actually working. So that's great. Then we've got the Go-based terminal calculator using Bubble Tea, and this one is also quite fine. It works fine, and all the functionality works, and it also looks pretty decent. So this is pretty great. We've got the Kanban app in Svelte, and this one is also pretty good. It works well and it looks fine, and it did all this in one prompt, which is quite a bit insane, especially for a model that is this cheap, which is insane to me for sure. All the stuff works. The database also works, and so does the other stuff. This is just so awesome. I mean, this model is actually a workhorse, probably as good as Opus 4.6, and even better than Codex, which is awesome. This is just so awesome. I mean, I'm probably going to switch to this model. It's really very good. Considering how cheap it is actually giving a challenge to the big dogs. It scores the 2nd position on the agentic leaderboards, which is insane for an open model like this. It's actually very good. It should be available an hour or two after this video. So I'll pin a comment when it becomes available. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.